Hello and welcome to Talking Truth Podcasts. My name is Pastor Mike Kager, and in these podcasts, we're going to be taking a few verses, maybe one or two from the Bible, and just really getting as much juice out of them as we can and looking how we can apply them to our lives. So let's dig in. Proverbs 16:9 says this: "The mind of a man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." I love this verse. The mind of a man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. You know, we love to plan things. I'm a big planner. And for me as a pastor, one of the things I'm always bombarded with and inundated with are magazine articles, emails, different groups and organizations trying to help me be able to strategize and plan and vision for the church. And in our lives and stuff, you know, we have goals, we have things we want to do, we have dreams, and we plan our lives. I mean, we plan things we want to do, we plan vacations, we plan careers. That's how we go to school and decide, you know, where we want to be. And so often in life, things maybe don't turn out the way we want them to. And that's one of the reasons I love this verse. And one of the things this verse and others in the Bible has taught me is the fact that we always need to plan in pencil, in a sense, because you never know what God's going to do. And, you know, part of my story and my testimony is, if it would have been up to me, my plans, I would not have been a pastor. It was not even on my radar, not even something I was entertaining. For those of you who've heard my testimony, I mean, I grew up in the church but couldn't stand the church, didn't go to church, wasn't a big fan of church, didn't listen a whole lot, didn't take notes, didn't really take my relationship with God seriously at all. Very nominal. I would go, but no. And so being a pastor, being called into ministry, nope. But doesn't God take the foolish things of the world to shame the wise? And my plans that I thought I was going to be about, you know, I was studying to be a firefighter. I even volunteered for a while. And, you know, I was even looking at doing like psychology, being a counselor. But then, you know, God's plans, God's direction stepped in and said, no, I want you to do this. I'm calling you to this. And I said, whoa, wait a second. I've got my own plan, God. God's like, but that's not my plan for you. And it's amazing to me. You read story after story in the Bible where God does stuff like that, where he takes men and women who probably had other plans or even wanted to have other plans. Like Jonah, he didn't want to go where God called him. But God's like, no, Jonah, you're going. You're going to Nineveh, Jonah. And so as I think about this verse, it makes me think about that the fact that as I plan and as I dream and as I have goals, those are all good things. And there's nothing wrong with having dreams, having a bucket list of things you want to do with your life, for leisure. But I need to always be cautious that even though I may plan my way, God's going to direct my steps. And when God directs my steps, I have to be open, pliable, and willing to say, I have a plan, but God is pulling me and calling me in a different direction, and be willing to submit and willing to follow his plan and not my plan. That's why I use the phrase, you know, keeping our plans in pencil, or in this digital age, you know, being able to delete and backspace and rewrite our plans, especially as God leads us. And so whenever I make goals, I'm always thinking about that, because I will spend time in prayer and think about, you know, what God is leading me to do personally, what God is leading me to do with his church. But I always write them in pencil, because it's amazing to watch. You know, sometimes the goals are in line with what God is calling me to do, with what God is leading me into. But sometimes I'm like, no, that's not it. God's God's directing me somewhere else. And so the point of this is to not be so fixated that this is the way it has to be. This is my vision. This is what I want. Because when I start to build walls around me in regards to what I think or how I think things should be in my life, in the church, I totally block out the fact that God is seeking to direct my steps. And his steps are always better than my steps, my plans. His ways are greater than my ways, and his thoughts are higher than my thoughts. And it's always awesome to watch after a year of when I've done my goals to look back and go, okay, this was a goal God had for me. This wasn't, and that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm a failure. It doesn't mean I didn't succeed. It doesn't mean that I've just got to pull my hair out. It's like, no. It's being submissive. It's being open to the hand of God and going, God had other plans, and I'm okay with that. So just think about that today in your life. As you think about your plans, as you think about goals, as you think about things personally and maybe vocationally, career-wise you want to do with your life, dream, pray, make goals, make plans, but always be open to how God may change those, to how God may direct you in a different way, to how God may lead you in a different way, and be okay with it. It's all right. And as I look back on my own life and see how I had my plans for what I wanted to do, but yet God directed my steps, I look back now and go, there's nothing else I'd rather do. I was headed down my own plan, and I was somewhat set on that until I finally surrendered and said, okay, God, you are directing me in a totally different way, and I'm just going to surrender to you and let you direct me now instead of trying to direct my own life. And so today, as you plan things, as you think about your life, as you think about goals, as you think about things you want to do, be sure you keep them in pencil. Be sure you're open to God maybe having a different direction and word for you. And you might not want to hear it at first, and you might not want to go. But I know this, if God has a direction that he wants to take you, he's going to continue to pursue you and draw you there until you surrender. And that's the truth. And the truth of it is we always need to be open to God's direction and leading in our lives above our own. Because our own plans are tainted with sin. We don't see perfectly. And God helps us to refocus where he wants us to be, and he will direct us. He will speak to you. He will bring confirmation and affirmation of where he's directing you. So let this be an encouragement to you today, and let it be a good exhortation that when you plan and make goals, be sure you leave the door open for the Spirit, for God's direction to come in, and not just close the door and say, nope, this is it. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going, God. And God just kind of sits back and goes, okay, I love you, but I'm going to show you I have a different way maybe. And maybe it is the way God is leading you. We just have to be open. We can't get so set in our ways that this is how it is, God. It's like we're telling God how it is. It's like, wait a second. There's something wrong with that. When I am the one saying, God, this is how it's going to be. It should be the other way around, where I'm saying, God, this is where I'm sensing you leading, but I want your direction. I want your confirmation. I want you to direct my steps. I don't want these to be my plans. I want this to be your plan, your goal, your leading in my life. And that's how we need to pray. And God will reveal, he will show us. So I pray this in your life today. Look at your life, the plans and goals you're making for yourself. Ask yourself, how open am I to God leading me or directing me in a different direction? And if I'm not, just confess that to God. Say, God, help me. Help me to listen to you. Help me to be aware. Help me to be open, that you may change the plans you have for me. And that's okay. And you may not, and that's okay too. But what I want, God, is to hear you. And I don't want to plan and direct my steps. I want to plan and let you direct my steps. And that is the truth of God's word. He will do that always. God bless.